Most of us are walking around trying extremely hard not to look stupid. We rehearse conversations in our head. We delete messages 5 times before sending them. We wait for someone else to dance first. We stay quiet when we have something passionate, something weird, something even half-formed to say. Ultimately, we're just afraid. We're afraid of being labeled cringe, afraid of being judged socially. There's this voice in our heads, perhaps as a result of social conditioning or an early feedback loop, that persistently reminds us to fit in, to not draw attention to ourselves, to go with the flow, if you will. And for most of us, for most of our lives, this voice has been winning. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you were genuinely embarrassed? Take a second, actually think about it. I won't call on you. Now, for most of you, almost instantly, a moment comes to mind. A moment where you tripped and fell on the ground, a moment where you spilled a drink, a moment where you felt everyone's eyes watching you, judging you, or at least you thought they were. Now let me pose a more interesting question, a more challenging question. When was the last time you embarrassed yourself on purpose? I know a lot of you are thinking, well, Krish, that's a weird question. Why would I embarrass myself on purpose? And to those people, I say, fair enough. That's how we were taught. That's what we were socially programmed to think. Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass your family. Don't embarrass yourself. These are words to a lot of you are very familiar. I know to me they definitely are. I've grown up hearing this my whole life. But here's what they don't tell you about embarrassment. Embarrassment isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're doing something real. Embarrassment isn't the red light. When you feel that sudden urge of that discomfort, when you feel that flush in your face, the knot in your stomach, it's not a red light saying stop, you're failing. No, in fact, it's a green light saying continue, keep going, you're human, you're visible, you're real. We've been taught to treat embarrassment like danger. And so when we see it, we run from it. We avoid embarrassment at all costs, to avoid standing out, to avoid looking different. But you'll notice that when we start embracing embarrassment, and when we start running to embarrassment instead of running away from it, we can treat embarrassment as the gateway to the one thing we as humans crave the most: social connection. Last month, I was at a social gathering type of event, where my friend had introduced me to a group of new people who I'd never met before. Now, my friend had introduced me and then exited the conversation, so I was left talking to this group of new people. We were talking about sports or something related, where out of nowhere, I made a joke. And guess what? Absolutely nobody left. And I know this hasn't just happened to me, this has happened to almost everybody here. And that's why I picked it, it's a relatable example. Nobody left, I felt everyone's eyes watching me. I think the entire room even went silent. And I couldn't hold it together. I burst out laughing. And because I burst out laughing, so did everybody else. What could have become a moment of awkwardness, a moment that would have inhibited my social abilities for the rest of that night, actually became a moment of pure, genuine authenticity, which in fact aided my social abilities for the rest of the night. And so the moral of the story is that while this feeling of embarrassment is real, the discomfort we associate with it isn't necessarily a bad thing. But we can problematize this claim. If the discomfort isn't embarrassment in the way we've always feared, what is it? Authenticity. Many credit authenticity to Danish 19th century existentialist philosopher Søren Kierkegaard. Kierkegaard argued that many were stuck in the numbing conformity of the crowd, and he argued that being authentic was breaking free from this crowd, living true to yourself. In other words, living in accordance with one's true desires. Nietzsche, perhaps a more famously known philosopher, put it better than almost anyone. He said, become who you are, not become what society wants you to be, not become who you should be or even what your parents want you to be. No, he said, become who you are. Nietzsche saw people trapped in what he called a herd. And this isn't new to us. We've heard this before, the herd mentality. The herd where people are afraid to be different, afraid to stand apart from each other. And Nietzsche argued that the only way forward is to push through this discomfort and to embrace who you really are as a person, become who you are. In fact, research supports this. When you feel that sudden urge to disappear, when you feel that flush in your face, the knot in your stomach, your brain lights up in areas tied to social connection. But what's remarkable about this is what happens in those watching. Their brain lights up too, in those very same areas. Their mirror neurons activate. Simply put, they feel what you feel. And so if we bring this back to the anecdote, I decided that moment wasn't embarrassing. I decided that moment was funny. And due to the mirror neurons, nobody else thought it was embarrassing either. Everyone treated it as the same funny moment. We've all heard the term secondhand embarrassment before. Show of hands if you've heard of this term, secondhand embarrassment. Everyone's hand should be up. You probably caught yourself saying, I feel embarrassed for that guy, or that was pretty embarrassing, wasn't it? And that's because your mirror neurons felt what the person who was embarrassed felt. They felt embarrassed and so did you. And so we can apply this logic to any situation involving embarrassment. If you don't feel embarrassment, people's mirror neurons won't activate the same and they won't feel embarrassed either. People are drawn to authenticity. Authenticity reminds us of what it means to be human, of what it means to make mistakes, what it means to live true to yourself. Being different, living in accordance with your true self is remarkable. And subconsciously, this is what the human body craves. That's why naturally, we are drawn to those who are more willing to make a fool of themselves in public, because that's what they genuinely want to do. We wish we had the courage to act like them. And that's why we're drawn to them. We wish we could act authentically, to act as freely as they do. Now, I must offer a disclaimer. When I say be embarrassing, when I say be authentic, I don't mean be careless. I mean, be present. Being present is about saying what's actually on your mind instead of running it through layers of approval. People can tell when you're being real, and people can tell when you're being fake. And that's what we need more of in this world. We need more of real, genuine, authentic people. Everything I've just told you can be synthesized into 3 claims. The first claim, embarrassment is real, but the discomfort we associate with it isn't necessarily a bad thing. The second claim, embarrassment is real, but embarrassment is also the natural companion of authenticity, and people crave authenticity. And the third claim, people feel what you feel. And so if you decide something is embarrassing, it is embarrassing. And if you decide something isn't embarrassing, it can't be. You aren't being authentic enough, but imagine what happens the moment you start. Connections deepen, fear vanishes, and you start finally living in accordance with your true self. Your life changes, and so do the lives of everyone around you, just because you decided to act first. The world around you becomes a more confident and more courageous place just because you had the courage to go first. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, well, Krish, this has been a great talk. You've told us we need to be more authentic, but you haven't told us how to do this. A concept I picked up from James Clear's Atomic Habits is changing your identity. In order to start being an authentic person, we need to start believing different beliefs about ourselves. And to help you visualize this concept, let's look at the classic problem of 2 smokers trying to quit smoking. Smoker A, when offered a cigarette, replies, "No thank you, I'm trying to quit smoking." Smoker B, when offered a cigarette, replies, "No, I don't smoke." Who do you think is more likely at quitting smoking? Smoker B. Why? Because Smoker B disassociated from being a smoker. Smoker A was still a smoker trying to quit smoking. Smoker B wasn't a smoker. And so we need to apply the same logic to being authentic. We need being authentic to become an identity-based habit rather than an outcome-based habit. When I say identity-based habit, I mean a habit that constitutes some sort of change in your identity. I am an authentic person, as opposed to an outcome-based habit, which facilitates some sort of achievement. I want to be more authentic. When we start thinking about authenticity as an identity-based habit, you'll notice that what your body believes, what your brain believes, your body follows suit. And so your behaviors are a reflection of your current identity. To change your identity, to change your behaviors, we need to change our identity first. We need being authentic to become an identity-based habit. You aren't being authentic enough, but starting today, let's change that. Thank you.